everyone, welcome to the first sequel with The Odd Ones Out. My name is Rebecca Parham. Don't worry, you're in the right place. Yes, I'm supposed to be here. So welcome to VidCon now. So here I am, Rebecca Parham, as I said, from Let Me Explain Studios, and we're here to talk to James, or as he's more commonly known, The Odd Ones Out.
Hello, how's it going? I'm in my office, socially distancing, just ready to talk about books and answer anyone's questions. And Rebecca's here to moderate. So thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, here to babysit.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's exciting. You have a new book out. It's a sequel to your first one.
I have them both right here. I
Perfect.
brought them up in preparation for this little thing. Hello. These are my little two books. Actually, I should hold them up like this because this is the first one.
That's correct order, yes.
Yeah.
So first question I have for you is, how is this new sequel different than the original book?
So the original book, I don't want to say that it was bad, but there's definitely things that you have to learn whenever you try something new. There's always you have to figure out kinks and stuff. And so for the second book, I just wanted to make it bigger, better art and more self-aware jokes, jokes you can only do in a book. So the first book is good, and it was, learning the ropes, figuring out how to do stuff, but I'm much more happy with this one and how it turned out. I just think it's stronger. This one also, so I always tell people that when I made my first couple of videos, I was just awful at it. I had very bad writing, just bad microphone audio quality, and just bad drawings. And I feel so bad because I wasted some good stories on those first couple of videos. My second video was about when me and my twin sister got yelled at for PDA, which is public displays of affection. And the teacher who yelled at us didn't know that it was my twin sister. And she was saying things like, I know you're both young and in love, but high school is a place where you're supposed to be learning. And it was such a good story. And I'm so upset that I wasted it on my second video. So what I did is I retold that story in this book. So there are some stories in here that have YouTube videos based off of them. And also with the YouTube videos, I keep the scripts about 1,500 words. People always ask me, how long are your scripts? How many pages? And I'm always like, well, that depends on the font and the size. I always keep it around 1,500 words. But then the book just let me dive in deeper with, more jokes, and I can tell a longer story in the book. But then this one, the second book, it was all completely original stuff, not on YouTube. There's stories, opinions, and like I said, just a lot more self-aware jokes. The whole chapter 4 was basically it was called Chapter for People Who Don't Understand Homophones. And so it was, I don't know if the problem with this is that if I tried to read it out, you wouldn't get the joke. So it's if you do not know what a homophone is, I will explain. And every single word is spelt, as a homophone.
As a homophone, yeah. So before we continue, I just want to let everybody know that we are still getting questions in on Twitter if you use the hashtag VCNowOddOnesOutBook. So ask your questions and we'll see if we can answer them for you.
I think I retweeted the VidCon thing, so if you just go on.
So just go to James's and you'll find it.
The first thing I retweeted.
Awesome. So given that the first book was your first attempt at making a book, period, I would assume that it probably took longer to make than the second one. Would you say that this one came out much quicker than the first one?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, there were, it's weird because in publishing, and I'm so not used to this, is you write it and you make the pictures and then you have to wait 3 months for, them to lay it out and the publishing and then them to do the marketing. And so it's just I finished it and then I had to wait a super long time for it to hit shelves. For this one, they were a lot, it's either I missed deadlines or they were just more excited to get it out because once I finished it, it was very quick on shelves.
But did the actual writing and creative process come a bit easier to you this time around?
Yeah, I would say I knew what I was doing. For the second book, like I said, I wanted to make totally original stories and life life stories and everything. So that it was more difficult to think of what to do. I don't know, I guess I had a lot of jokes in my head that that never came to be. Like I wanted to do like some riddles. I wanted to do like a maze in the book, but then people would draw on it, and it's not like meant to be like an activity book. So
Right.
I had to.
So that actually answers some questions that I've been seeing coming in. Is like, what would you have added if you were
Oh,
able
really?
to? What was something that you couldn't put? See if who is the one that said that.
Well,
Oh yeah, Valerie FMSH. So fmish.
so
Fmish.
yeah, for the second book, I wanted to make more self-aware jokes that I could only do in a book. And so some of them, like mazes or word searches, those are things that you can do in books, but I couldn't really do them because these weren't like activity books.
Right.
One joke that I did do in this that went over quite a few people's heads was I'm gonna talk about it. It's chapter 12. It says proof the world is flat, and on this page it's 174, and it says, listen, I know I'm basically saying that for this theory to be true. Oh, this is a little sneak peek if you haven't had the book yet. It says, for this theory to be true, most of the population has to be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. After all, people used to think the Earth was at the center of the universe, and they wore bell-bottom jeans. Not at the same time, probably. So to prove that the Earth is flat, all you need to do is get 13,000, and then on the next page, it says, and you'll find the results as stunning as I have. And if you look, the page number goes from 174 to 177. So there's some pages that are missing. Mm-hmm. And you might think, what? Huh? But if you keep reading, it says, since this is a very important chapter, the Illuminati might try and hide this knowledge from you. You have to be careful of the Illuminati. They could be anyone from anywhere, your teachers, your dentists, or even your publisher. But I don't think they're going to do any tampering with this book. I mean, all I did was give out a well-guarded government secret. What are they going to do? Not print the pages? In the next chapter, I'll give you proof that the moon landing was faked. And so this was chapter 12, and literally the next chapter is chapter 14. So the moon landing was fake. Doesn't even get printed yet.
That's funny.
But so many people, so I thought it was a very obvious joke that that the publishers did tampering with the book. There's even the 174 to 177. But some people were like, this is an unfinished, there's pages missing. I even got some 1-star reviews on Amazon for people being like, they made an unfinished book. And I was just like, oh, I thought the joke was obvious, but
so if you had if sky was the limit with the printing of this current book, would you have added maybe some ripped out pages in the center of it?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I would have, if that was an option, I would have ripped out pages to make it even more obvious. But
and sometimes what people don't really realize is that we as artists absolutely want to do fine details like that. We wish we could do that, but when you're working with a publisher or you're working with another company and you're working within a budget, then there are always these limitations that you run into. So it's we wish we could do the absolute best we could, but sometimes it's just not feasible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if I was going to do the page ripping out thing, then they would have had to make it a specialty book. It would have made the price go up just for that one joke.
Really high,
so,
just for the one joke.
It was not worth it. Yeah.
No.
But no, I've had a couple of people being like, this book's unfinished. I was like, oh no. I was really proud of that joke too. I remember showing it to a bunch of people before it came out. I was just like, this book is so self-aware and so funny.
So on the topic of special chapters, what chapter did you enjoy writing the most?
Ooh, now I need to search through this. Which chapter did I enjoy writing the most? It's been a while since I've read this. There's one about why the robot uprising won't be that bad. And I forgot how I came up with it, but I was just talking about everyone always thinks that robots are going to turn evil and stuff, but they're not. They only turn evil if you program to be evil. And although I've seen some stuff on artificial intelligence, but so I just remember talking to people being robots could actually really improve our lives if you think about it. And so I just did a whole chapter talking about why the robot uprising won't be bad. I had a joke being if there were robot celebrities, they wouldn't get in any controversies. If there's robot politicians, they wouldn't lie to us. What did else I say? Robot celebrities wouldn't have to take a break from making content. They'd be able to have a meet and greet sessions that last 80 hours straight. And you'll never see a tabloid headline about robot celebrities going to rehab if they get all whacked out or wait, if they get all whacked out, they'll just be reprogrammed. So I don't know, that one was fun.
Yeah, never mind, enslaving humanity or anything like that.
I feel like
I've seen iRobot. Come on, James.
humanity can take on a few like robots. Just
I know.
unplug them.
Well, I'm just waiting for that to happen this year. Trust me. So if you buy this book, you'll say, "Oh, a robot."
Oh, you have it.
I do have it. I have it at the ready.
Nice.
But anyways, so what was your favorite story in each of your books? Like the first one, the sequel. Yeah.
Story or chapter?
Story specifically.
I did one on Squeaky the Toad. Well, okay, so I did a story in this book about Squeaky the Toad, and I think I mentioned in it where I was like, it's not as fun as Harry the Moth, because like it was just about this toad that me and my siblings like brought into the house, and then it was just screaming in pain a lot, and then we just let it out. But and it got loose and we found it. But like, unlike Harry, it didn't, have a very gruesome death.
Right.
So that one was fun. And then I guess in chapter one, in book one, I talk about doing what are they called? The job interviews. And I have a video based off of it, but I remember in this one, I can go into more detail about the job interviews and, say things that I cut out of the video. But it's been so long since I've actually like read book one, because I've been focusing on book two so much.
Right. So, given that you just come off of making this book, what were some of like the hard things about making a sequel? Like, did you feel a lot of pressure to outperform yourself from the first book?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it was pressure, is more of a motivation, because the first book, it came out and I was like, nice, but I know I could do better. You know what I mean? Like, so I when I started making the second book, it was just had it in the mindset of like, how am I going to make this bigger and better? And I also had like, I had more people on my team, so I was able to like have them all work together and make really good art for the second book. So
I'm curious about both of these books, because both of these books kind of have a running theme as far as the cover pages go, covers go. So I'm just curious how exactly this idea came to be.
Good. Okay, I am going to show you, like, this is going to be never before seen content here on VidCon now. Let me share my screens. Is it this one? Sweet. Can you see this?
Yep. Absolutely.
I hope VidCon, because I don't know how VidCon's setting up, but I really hope they can see this. Otherwise, I'm just showing this to Rebecca. So when I made the first book, the publishers wanted me to make the cover, because I was the artist and the writer. So they're like, all right, sure, what's the cover? And they wanted me to design like 6 possible different covers for this book. And so I sent them this one. This was the first one that I did, and I liked this one the most. This was, and that was another thing too, is the title. They wanted me to choose the title, and at first it was going to be called The Odd Ones Out Guide to Life. And they wanted me to come up with like 4 or 5 different titles, and one of the titles I came up with was How to Be Cool and Other Things I Definitely Learned from Growing Up. And they picked that title. They wanted me to go with that one, which I'm going to be honest, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite title. The Guide to Life one I thought was just short, succinct, just The Odd Ones Out Guide to Life. And the whole book was just me talking about, life stories and how to grow, like my growing up journey. But they liked the How to Be Cool and Other Things I Definitely Learned from Growing Up, which is pretty wordy, but like I said, I came up with it. So it was whatever. So
you picked your own poison there.
And then this was another cover that I had. They wanted me to, make more. So I just thought like, The Odd Ones Out Guide to Life, and there'd just be a bunch of different faces. And then these faces would have like there'd just be funny faces throughout. And then this one would say James Rallison at the bottom. Then there's this one where it's going for a minimalistic sort of look, where it was, just a very close-up shot of the face, Guide to Life. Then there's this one. This one I was just like, I'm gonna draw a person and put trees
and
there.
the background it's trees, right?
Oh yeah, those are trees. These are just very quick sketches. I think I made all of these like on the same day. And then number 6, because it was How to Be Cool, I was just that one. And I told them, I was like, this one's my favorite. I like this one. But then they said that we think that this will look like a how to draw book. This will confuse people and make it look like a how to draw like the odd ones out and characters and stuff. And I was like, oh, really? And then they were like, yeah, our favorite is this one.
That one.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And they're like, everyone on our design team loves it. And I thought like they're the publishing company, they are more experienced with books and covers. So I was like, okay, well, their design team likes it. So let's pursue that, I guess. They know what they're doing. But then they were like, there's too much negative space right here. So what if you added another one of your characters? And I was like, I don't really have like another character. There's just other, like, I guess there's Harry the Moth down here. But then there was, I don't know why I chose it, but I ended up putting a vampire right here. And I did this. Oh, this is just painful to look at. Another thing they were playing around with the idea of saying creator of the popular YouTube channel, The Odd Ones Out, like they're, so just how to be cool, James Rallison. And I was like, this is too much words. And I added a joke right here where it just says citation needed. And so they were like, nice. And then we were also we were experimenting with like the colors of the vampire. Hold on, so like there, it like, it's moving. He's just like off to the side, just poking at it. There's this one where it was like James Rallison, creator of the popular YouTube channel, or this one, The Odd Ones Out, and other things I definitely learned from growing up. And I like the idea of the speech bubble. That didn't end up making it in the first cover. But I just remember telling my agent, I was like, I hate this cover. I don't know why they say this is good, but there's like too many words. I told them, I was like, I really like this one a lot. I don't know why they didn't want this one. And then my agent was like, all right, make that cover. Don't tell them you're making it. Just make the final version of it and then show it to them and see what they think. Just show them the final version. And I said, okay, I think there might be, there's more of this. Just how to be cool. I think really looking grown up. Oh man, I can't even imagine if the cover was this. There's just.
Oh yeah, like no, total improvement. Like
and so then
the actual one is an absolute improvement.
Yeah. Well, so what I actually did, this was when I first did it. This was like actually the color scheme that I went with, like just brown. And then I was like, oh, I like these colors, but maybe I'll change the background. And then I changed the background to that. And this is the cover that everyone knows and loves. And
the yellow and the orange is popping against that blue so beautifully.
Oh yeah. And how to be cool and other things I definitely learned from growing up. And then there's my name. I really like that his hand like went over like this. That's fun. And what's actually like, since this is a Photoshop file, I can show you the stuff that's behind. And like that was
you're showing all the dirty secrets of us artists. Is that this is what everything looks like when you take away all the layers.
Yeah. Like this is what it actually looks like, all the layers. Of course, this isn't being printed with layers and stuff, but like on every single book behind all these characters, this is what was there.
It's not clean. It's not.
When you put it back, it looks good.
It looks great. Yeah. And that's just a matter of like saving time,
Oh yeah.
Is
I mean, if I was more organized, because let's say like, oh, can you actually make these characters smaller? Let's see if I can do that. Like, oh, can you actually like make it smaller? I'm like, okay, and I do that. Now it's ugly.
Then you suddenly have to fix it. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why I would do that smaller though. And then this is the back cover that I made. And so there's a back cover, and then they just put words on all of it. And so yeah, then when I like showed them this, I was like, hey, I made a new cover. They were like, that's good. We like that one. And I was like, phew.
So what's really interesting to me in hearing this story is that this is very much a team effort between you and the producers, essentially the publishing company. Yeah. So
and this was
that's something one. that some people that don't really realize, especially when you're doing a book, is that a lot of stuff within the book is being pushed and pulled around by your publisher. So, but I'm really glad. That's a really fun story because it shows that you guys stand up for yourself when you really feel like you've made the initial good creative decision. So it was great that your agent told you to just make the cover and then just show it to them.
Yeah, that's a thing that I think as YouTubers we're so used to like being the one in control and like having the final say. But as soon as you start working with like other companies and other, other, like publishing companies, they get to choose certain things about it too, like you do have to give up some creative liberty, but you still you want to make both of each other, like you want to make each other happy. You don't want to like you don't want to have like the publishing company being like, we like it, and I'm like, oh,
and you got to learn how to pick your battles. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Certain things you can't move on. Like if they wanted to change, your Marshmallow Boys complete design, you got to say, hey, wait a second, no.
Yeah, they would do the opposite of it. If I came to them was like, oh, I'm going to do a book and I'm going to have like no marshmallow people in it, they would be like, wait, but the marshmallow people are that's the recognizable character. Make a marshmallow person.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So moving on. Let's see. What are you actually here's a good one. What are some advantages to the medium of print over animated videos?
What are some advantages?
Yeah, like things that you can do better in print than in your animated videos.
Oh, I have to think about that because I can list off all the disadvantages there are. I'm so much more used and comfortable with like, making the animated YouTube videos than print.
Right.
Because with the YouTube videos, it has your voice. It has like how you want the story to be read. And it also like shows what you want to show. With the book, you really just have to like write up. It was very similar to writing up a script for my YouTube, you know, a little different here and there.
Right. So I would imagine it was kind of a learning process for you because you're so used to the process of making a video, and a lot of the humor is always based upon how the line is read, the inflection, and a lot of communication is very important in that regard. Like something can come off very serious when in fact it's supposed to be a joke, but it's okay because it's said in your voice. So I'm sure that you probably learned a lot while doing this.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. Some advantages there are to books than there are to, I was going to say you don't have to draw as much, but like you do for these things. And actually, what was interesting was that since I knew the characters didn't move, like, so let's like take this picture, just open it to a random picture. So like, since I knew it was not going to move, it was just going to stay in one place. Like this thing right here, normally if it was in a video, I don't know if you can see it that well. There's like this little like shopping thing that he's like using a scanner from like, the grocery store. Yeah. Like normally for a video, I would have to like draw that asset. Oh, there I am. You'd have to like draw that asset like on its own, draw this character and layer it all out. But I knew since it was a book and that this is the only time this was going to be shown, I didn't have to like draw the whole thing, and I could just use it all in like a flat image. Like
there's a lot of mental juggling that comes with animation in the sense of like, if something is supposed to be in front of the character, I have to make that a separate layer, and I have to draw it in its entirety, and I have to draw the background as a separate layer so the character can move in between. And with, you're right, with print, you just have to draw that once, and you can just draw it exactly how it needs to be without thinking of a character moving around it.
You don't have to think about it too hard.
Yeah. It takes a little less mental energy, I would say.
That's for sure. But it has its own challenges, from videos.
So given that you said that you wanted to put like activities in it at one point, like a maze and word search and all that kind of stuff, do you ever think about making an activity book?
On my second channel, I've done videos where I've like made riddles. So I do like making puzzles. I haven't thought about it. An activity book would be probably a totally separate, from everything.
Right.
Though, like the thing that I would do if I made an activity book, I would have to think about how I would make it different. I wouldn't want to just be like, here's a word search and here's like, you look for sewer boy and Harry and floof. Like that's whatever. But I would have to think like what sort of twist I would have on an activity book that would,
I like that. I like that you are searching for a new way of doing things, because you're right. It would just be too easy to just make a word search, just a maze, and turning all of that on its side and finding a new way to do it. That takes a lot of mental energy and a lot of time and effort. So I would totally agree. I would always like try to find a new way of doing a common formula like that.
Exactly.
So how about we actually get to some fan questions?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll do some fan questions.
So Jacurus are there any secrets / Easter eggs in this book that you want to tell us about?
I should have came prepared with that. Normally what will happen is it'll actually be like other artists that are working on it. They'll put in Easter eggs. A lot of times I'll put characters, or I'll put the people that like worked on the book like as characters in backgrounds. I do that a lot with my videos. Need to check, are there any Easter eggs? There is one, and actually here's one. On the Doofus and Do Right, it's not numbered, it's like page 108. It's this giant yellow one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have this is one of my friends. This is like his character. His name's Adler. And I put him in the background. And then right here, it's another artist that worked on it right there. I don't know if you can see right there. That's another artist that worked on it. Her name's PJ.
Oh, PJ,
So
yeah.
Yeah, that's her characters in the back. I'm pretty sure she colored it too. That's the thing, is that I'll put the people that like worked on it, I'll like put them as characters in the background a lot of times, but then they'll end up coloring it themselves. So it's not really a surprise.
No, I think that's very in tune with animation in general, is that a lot of the times artists will put in like inside jokes and Easter eggs from their own personal life, or even draw themselves into the background. So I think that's funny. Django says, what was the inspiration for making a sequel?
What was the inspiration for making a sequel?
Yeah, like what was your main motivation?
Well, I had a lot of fun doing the first one. It was definitely a new experience. That's the thing I always tell people, is that like YouTube's great, but I want to diversify. I want to. Whoops! Did I just do something? Just hit that.
I still see you.
I gotcha. All right. I always want to try something new, and it was fun. The reason I wanted to do a sequel, honestly, was because I wanted to improve upon the first book. I was learning the ropes as a little baby author, making the first one. And then once I like figured out what was going on, then I kicked it into full gear and made the second one.
That's awesome. Okay. So, and I'm curious about this next one. This is from Just a Toothpick. I know we talked about, the first book taking longer, but he or she asks, or they, how long did it take to actually complete the book? So from like concept to completion, how long was the process?
Man, I lose track of time sometimes. How long was the process?
Yeah.
I'm probably misremembering it so wrong. What I normally did for the two books is I would also be like working on YouTube videos like at the same time. There'd be like some days where I'm juggling both. So it wasn't ever like just sat down, stopped working on videos and wrote a book. But it was, I want to say it was, like 4 to 6 months on and off working on the book.
Okay. And
yeah.
And question that was just fed to me. So I know that you had a lot of artists working on this as well. How many would you say were working on it? On
the book?
Yeah.
Oh, I brought on like 2 people that don't normally work on the videos. Their names are Hero and Tim. I'm forgetting their last name.
Because Lama Elbrus asks, how did you meet the artist that helped you with the books?
Oh, well, it's the same way that you get artists for any project. You set out like a roll call, or you'd be like, hey, I'm looking for background artists. I'm looking for.
So you put out a job listing, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah. Or I'll be like, or I'll even like look around Twitter and look at, sometimes people will say like, so-and-so looking for work, and I'll, see their portfolio on their Twitter. So it was honestly like a lot of social media helps like to get connected with potential artists. And then this is the way the industry does it, is that when you have someone that you usually send out like a test material, like, so you like give them like a background and you tell them like, all right, draw this background in this style, and then you have this many days to complete it. And I just recently did that with a storyboarder, where I sent out like a audio clip and I sent it to 5 different people, and they all sent back a storyboard, and I was like, that one is the one I like, and then I hire that person.
Awesome. So, Biden Key, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. What do your family and friends think about the stories in your book?
Are you talking about the ones where I mention them?
I don't know. This is a very broad question. What do they think?
Normally, if I like talk about a specific person, I'll show them the script like before it even, even like I make pictures for it. Uh, there was one story in the second book where like I used fake names for friends, but they knew who they were. And I still showed it to them, and they're like, "Yeah, it's fun." A lot of people are good sports about it. I'm not really ever talking bad, unless if I'm talking bad about a person, I'm not showing them because there's probably a reason I probably don't talk to them.
Right.
But they're good sports about it. I would say there's always like, ha ha, I'm mentioned in the book. Even the people that I have in the background, I always like show them a picture of it and be like, hey, I'm going to put you in this part. Is that okay? And most people are like, that's cool.
So, goodness, all of these usernames are so hard. Mara Sigan Shira or something. What advice would you give to new writers?
Well, Mara Shiganami, what advice would I give to new? Well, the books that I made weren't very narrative or story driven. So if you want to look for advice about how to make a plot and characters and like a good climax, then ask someone else because I don't know. The important thing that I would say for beginning writers would be to just start, which it sounds cliche, but it's honestly the truth. Like if you want to write a book, just do it. You don't like you can do self-publishing. You don't need to go through a publisher. What you have to make the stuff first, and then you have to learn what works, what doesn't, get feedback, and just keep at it.
And I would put on top of that, don't be afraid of what you don't know. Like it's okay that you don't know anything. So you're just gonna have to learn, and we live in the age of information where everything is searchable, where you have
that's true. Like learn, like a lot of resources online will teach you about characters and plot and climaxes.
Yeah.
So you can look those up and learn on the internet.
And always be aware that your first draft is never going to be your final draft.
Oh, that's another thing too. Yeah. That's like I would I'd write the scripts up and then always send them off to other people to read and get their opinions. And sometimes they'll like add jokes. Sometimes they'll be like, this part doesn't make sense, or they'll
working off of that. That's a great subject right there. For a new artist or a new writer, it might be really hard to seek out and then accept constructive criticism from people who may know more than you and are actually, trying to help you improve. I mean, I think we work with other people all the time who tell us, oh, this could be fixed. And you, like you said, you send it to lots of different people and you get their feedback on it. What would you say, is a good bit of advice for someone who needs to kind of learn how to get used to constructive criticism?
How would I mean, that's just part of the process, you need to get more eyes on it and hear their opinions. And you're not going to agree with everyone, I would say. There'll be times when I, send scripts off to people and they'll be like, this part's not funny. And then I'll be like, well, I liked it. But, like if everyone in your like friend circle was like, this part isn't funny or this part can be improved, then you need to start going, okay, where am I going wrong? So I would say you do have to be very, very introspective and like look at your content for like what it is and try not to be too married to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you also have to you have to pick and choose what advice you do take, because if I sent it to 5 different people and everybody came back with a new idea for me to add to it, if I tried to add all 5 people's suggestions, then it just becomes a mush that doesn't make sense. So you do have to keep your mind open to the criticism, but you also have to pick and choose what is right for your vision.
Yeah.
And if it enhances your vision.
Like with the joke, the joke for the flat earth, people were like, oh, you could have added a ripped page. And it's like, well, no, you don't understand. That's not possible. So there's like that advice that doesn't really apply. So
right. And sometimes the budget isn't there, the feasibility isn't there. But so let me see. Nat de 1 2 asks, how was your work schedule affected from making a new book, as you were always focused on animating? So how did you juggle making the book with making the videos?
Like getting help from other people, like having additional artists is amazing, because like animation and even writing, it does take up a big like chunk of your process or chunk of your time. So having extra help, that's going to be such a time saver. Like even in this book, I had like people make the backgrounds. I had certain people like color. So, like how it affected my schedule, it was just, it was more on the plate. Just had to take it one day at a time, schedule out what I needed to get done on like what day. And if someone was able to like, do a background or color something, then I would let them do it. Because it's like I could be writing more or working on the videos. So just getting extra help is how I was able to accomplish it.
So because it's such a unique project, do you feel like you wanted to spend more time on it versus maybe on the videos at that moment while making it? Like you want to spend more time on the book while it was in the process of being made because it was such a special thing.
Not really. I guess it was the same amount as a video. It was just something that you look at it and you want to say, I'm proud of it. So
right.
Although I would say I did spend more time on it than a video. Like it did take multiple months to do, but
wow, it's a very different medium.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of project.
It's a bigger project, I'd say.
Yeah. Plama, great username. Are you planning to animate some stories from the book, from this new sequel book? You don't have to get specific, so don't give anything away, but say yes or no.
Not really. Probably
really?
not. Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. If I did, I would only be like a quick mention, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's one story about, my first car. And so if I ever did a video and I'm like talking about my car, I might mention like, oh, and so like there's a part where my car like got this like long scratch on it, and my dad thought he did it, and he like was trying to figure out like who did it and trying to get it fixed without me knowing. But I was the one that scratched the car. So I might, if I ever did a video about car scratches or cars, I don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't think I'd do a whole video being like I would just like read this off. Because it's for the book, and so it needs to be its own original special story. There have been times where I've like used backgrounds that were in the book that I've used in a video. So I've already, I reuse backgrounds and assets that I've done. Like I drew floof in this book quite a bit, so I've reused floof in videos.
I don't see a username attached to this one, but it's so specific that I'm assuming it's from a fan. So will we be able to find your book on any other continents like South America? Greetings. So
oh, South America.
Yeah, like
oh no, I don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
Well, no, we got it in Australia, so that was a big thing.
Yeah, that was like a recent announcement. That's really cool. Congratulations.
So that's not South America, though. That's an entirely different continent.
South America. That's very, very far away.
You can order it online. There's always Amazon, like Barnes & Noble does online, and then like through my own website is online.
So and those do ship internationally, right? Good. Yeah. So there you go. Exactly. But being able to see it in a store like a Target or something like that, that's a little bit more of a process, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is. I want to say the UK has them, but don't like fact check me on that.
It's like I think, but don't quote me on
Australia
that.
is what's fun actually. The Australian Scholastic is we're in this Australian Scholastic. We're not even in the American Scholastic, but the Australian one is like we want more odd ones, and so yeah, they're
cool. So you talked about how you had to come up with multiple titles for the first book. So Inkless.
Well, we're going to ask what other titles are?
Inkless Boredoms. Were there any names for this book, the sequel book, that you could have used, but you didn't?
Okay, so
were there any other drafts?
That was actually, that's a good question, because so for the first book, I had multiple different titles, multiple different covers, and the publisher like picked what they wanted, and I just had to deal with it. For the second book, they were much more nice, and I just did one cover, called it one title, and they were like, yes, James, that's good.
They trusted you this time.
Exactly. They trusted me this time. And honestly, like, the cover was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I already knew like the style I was going for, big bubble boy with a bunch of different references on the side.
Yeah.
I remember like experimenting with red for a little bit. I was trying to do red, but then it ended up looking pink. And then I realized that I think the base color needs to be a cool color. So like blue and purple, they're both cool.
Yeah, and they look great side by side. Both your books do. So I think purple was probably the good choice. Again, I don't have a username for this one, but I'll assume it's from a fan. How much do the books connect to your videos based on style and humor? So I would assume that your videos and this book are very, very similar in the brand.
Yeah, they're very similar because I wrote them.
Because you wrote them.
Exactly.
Did you we did talk about how there are differences in the way you tell your jokes and the way you tell your stories because you're so used to your voice being the one to tell the stories in the videos, and that you had to kind of shift gears for writing.
So
yeah.
No, they're very connected because I write the videos and I wrote this, so you could probably like read this book like in my voice in your head, and that would work. So it was honestly like it was very similar to writing a script on YouTube for like chapters, because like when I start, this is a little industry tip, is that every single video I start with a script first. And so it was basically just making a script, and then instead of animating it, just having pictures periodically through it.
So here's one that's not necessarily book related.
All right.
How do you deal with burnout and, motivation?
That's very not book related. I guess, I mean, it's the same answer as always, where it's like take breaks and really schedule out yourself. And I think a lot of times YouTubers and people that are in this business can fall into that hustler mindset, and they can just, wake up, work, take a 15-minute lunch break, work, go to bed. And that is just not going to be healthy for like your mental state. So if this still is a job, and there are some days where I'm like, I don't want to draw cartoons, I don't want to speed run Minecraft, but you have to like scheduling out really helps, being organized and figuring out what, like when you have a schedule, then you can know if you're like ahead of schedule or behind schedule, what needs to be done. That's always good. And like knowing how much you can get done in a day, and don't give yourself too much work. It's a boring answer, but that's not what it is. One thing that's I've been doing is I've been being more relaxed on the weekends. Like before I would work 7 days a week, but now I'm giving myself weekends.
So this plays into one of our questions. Anika Hunsaker, they ask, is it fun collaborating with other people to produce your work, or do you prefer working alone? And I'm assuming you like working with other people because it's now you're able to relax.
Yeah. Working with other people though is not a collab. I need to say that. Like I'm not. Oh, do you mean when you say working with other people? Thinking you're talking about my team.
No, in and of itself. Well, I'm assuming. I think of collaborating as anybody working with you on a project, whether it's providing a voice or doing the artwork for you. But I would say working like because they ask, or do you prefer working alone? I'm assuming it's your team. So
yeah. Well, like I don't want to. It's if you get hired by a YouTuber, don't treat it like a collab, treat it like a job, and like make sure you're getting paid for it too. Yeah. What was I saying? It is, I very much prefer working with a team. And because you'll just like sketch out a background, and you'll be like, okay, I need this bathtub background. And then a couple of days later, it'll just be there, and you'll be like, oh, that saves me hundreds of hours. So,
and speaking from my own personal experience working with a team, is that you open yourself up creatively so much when other people bring on ideas and different ways of
yeah.
drawing things. And, you know, you learn more about your own art form when other people come on board, because they're like,
100%.
oh, I love the way that they're drawing it this way. And, you know, oh, that was such a great joke. I need to implement something like that again. You know, so it really helps you expand your own creative abilities and your own creative ideas when you do bring on other people. So I would say that's one of the greatest benefits of working with other people.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, you get other. So it comes back to, like, you know, sharing your artwork and getting feedback. It's, you know, you yourself aren't going, like, working together with people. They're gonna, every single time you bring on another person, they're just gonna build off of each other and, like, always be improving the stuff.
Absolutely. So here's a question. Now that you've gotten 2 books under your wings, and
is there a third?
Is there a third you're thinking about?
So I'm already talking with my publisher about doing a third one. It's not going to be similar to this, though. All I have to say is that it's going to be a book with characters and plot and a climax.
Ooh,
whoa.
Fun. Very fun. That's a new thing entirely.
Like, don't hold your breath for that one, because I mean, the second one, I feel like I don't know how many months it's been since it's come out, but I've already been like, all right, give me some breathing room before I start working on the next one.
Right. So it'll be a while before a third book comes out.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah. Because this one, how long has it been since this one has been released?
Did it come out in March? I think it might have, because I remember the book tour was also in March and May, but then it had to get canceled because of everything.
Yeah.
Because of the reason we're in Zoom right now and not
exactly
at
why we're not at VidCon Anaheim right this second.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do like the idea that we have people from all around the world watching us right now, and, you know, it makes us really connected. And I love that. So, anyways,
the best we can.
So what was something, like, I would say, would you say that the first book was a bigger accomplishment, or the fact that this new book is in many ways an improvement upon the first one? Which one would you say is a bigger accomplishment?
They're both accomplishments in their own sense, if that makes sense. They're both, this is the first draft, and this was the bigger and better improvement. So I don't want to, I would say if you were going to read one, I would prefer if you read the second one. That's all I'll say.
So yeah, everyone go out and buy the second one. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I don't want to, it has been a long time since I've read the first one, and it's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. It was good. I've had a lot of people like it and tell me how much they've liked it. So it's fine. But the second one, I just wanted to improve upon on the first one. So that's, I would say, is a bigger accomplishment.
Unistar asks, did your previous experience in making comics on Tumblr make writing this book easier?
Not really, because the comics on Tumblr were just like a more of a visual joke, where you just have like a setup, a punchline, and, you know, like hee hee ha ha. These books were it's a lot more like the videos helped me more than the comics on Tumblr, because the videos helped me a lot with, like, storytelling and, you know, writing more.
Well,
so,
you know, I think, though, because on many of these pages, like if I were to just hold up this one with, you know, your character being fanned and serviced by robots, this is what we call an iconic moment in storytelling, that in this singular image, it is telling a story. And that's actually hard for some people to understand and grasp the concept of. And I think by being and starting off as a comic book artist, you learn just by kind of through experience and trial by fire what exactly it takes to make an iconic moment like this. So that in and of itself made you a better storyteller, wouldn't you say?
I guess. I haven't made a comic since 2017, though. So I would say the comics, comics helped me, like, structure jokes, like visual jokes. because that's a big thing in YouTube videos and books is the visual humor. So it's just something that you always are trying to improve upon and learn from.
Speaking on your experience in comics and making comics, you have always said that when you were young, you read a lot of comic books like Garfield.
Oh yeah,
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my parents had this rule when I was growing up that we were only allowed to go on the computer for however long we read a book for. And so that means if we read a book for 30 minutes, we can go on the computer for 30 minutes. But I didn't like reading. So instead I would read Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes, and The Far Side. My mom was like, there's words in that, that's close enough. And I think that reading those comics as a kid, I found out how much I loved cartoons and comics, and that's why I got into it. And so with these books, I wanted to really emulate that sort of feeling of like people that don't, like kids that don't normally like to read will hopefully see the pictures and see the jokes and the ha-has, and they'll end up liking this book. So even though as a kid I didn't read too much, I'm hoping that this book will make people enjoy reading.
And you've often said that you might have dyslexia, right?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of. Did reading comics, was that easier for you as a kid versus reading like?
It definitely was, because reading like a normal book with, characters and plot, it was hard to retain what I was reading. Sometimes I would just like open up the page and I would read the words, and then I would get to the bottom and I'd be like, I didn't understand anything. I did not connect with, like, I just couldn't, I don't know. It was
right.
It was just hard to focus and read. And so, a
funny story, I'm leading up to something here, but a funny story. I was talking to your mom at VidCon one year, and we were talking about this very thing of how, you had trouble reading the pictureless books, and you found a lot of fun in the comics, and it was because that you possibly had dyslexia. Especially your mom believes that you have dyslexia. She has it. And so I said to her, so basically you're telling me that because he had dyslexia, he had to read comics, and because he read comics, he wanted to make comics for himself. And when he started making comics for himself, he got an audience and went to YouTube, and now he's become this big YouTuber with a career. And so so what I'm saying is, because you possibly have dyslexia, you're now the odd ones out.
You want to put it that way, I guess.
Yes,
but
yes. And it all just kind of chain reaction.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, this is a good note to end on because we're getting close to the end. So if you have any kind of thoughts that you want to talk about,
buy my book. This has been a huge plug for my book. Yeah. It was a lot of fun to make. It had its own challenges, its own, it was a unique project to work on. And you don't need to get approached by a publishing company. For the first book, I wasn't even approached by a publishing company. A lot of people think it was oh, James just became big on YouTube and some ghostwriter made a book, but it was I wrote this up and I had to I got an agent, and then we got in contact with a publishing company. So it wasn't just handed to me on a plate. I had to, the important thing is you write the book, that's the first hurdle that you need to cross. And so if any of you watching are aspiring writers, then just start today. Just write whatever you want. Make sure you send it off to people and get feedback and do research and study on certain things. That's really with anything in life, is that if you want to do something, then just do it. It's such a boring answer, but it's true.
Well, it's just a common truth, just get started, just get it going, and always push for improvement. And I have a quote on my own wall. It's from The Illusion of Life, and it says, "Fine works have never been achieved easily, nor without the exercise of constant critical judgment." So be critical of yourself, but don't be afraid to put out something that is less than perfect, because that's just the only way you're going to learn. So anyways, I think that is my official last thought, your official last thought. And I encourage everybody to go over to the VidCon Discord server to continue the conversation over there. If you want to know where to find us, James, where can everyone find you?
What do you mean with the
like
you mean on Twitter?
No, well, I mean like on Twitter, on YouTube. Where can they find you? Plug yourself.
The Odd One's Out on Twitter. The Odd One's Out on. I feel like people watching already know that.
Know that, right? Well, then I'll plug myself. Hi, I'm Rebecca Parham. Let Me Explain Studios. All of my credentials are probably in the description below, or Let Me Explain Studios. Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
Us, and thank you so much for tuning in. But now we gotta tune out. And
you have a closing, Rebecca?
That was my closing, and you ruined it.
No, like the wear your seatbelt closing, like for videos.
That was mine. It was.
No, I meant like
wear your seatbelt.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and wear your seatbelt.
There you go. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.